Season 3 of Outlander charted the fateful Battle of Culloden after Jamie Fraser, played by Sam Heughan, and Claire Fraser, Katrina Balfe, failed to change the course of history and thwart Bonnie Prince Charlie's, Andrew Gower, ambitions for the British throne. The Frasers returned to Scotland with Jamie preparing to go to war with his fellow Jacobites, while Claire was sent back to the 20th century. The general perception of Culloden in both the Outlander novels by American author Diana Gabaldon and the Starz TV series was the Jacobite rebellion was doomed from the outset. Was the Battle of Culloden accurate in Outlander? However, Professor Pittock has said this view of the Jacobite cause is an outdated one. The academic said, "What I would say is that I'm aware there's a negative depiction of Charles Edward Stuart and the Jacobites in Outlander." He went on to say, "A lot of criticism that's come Outlander's way is because there is a view that the Jacobite cause is doomed and ultimately it's a dead end, and that's regarded by historians of the period as a bit of an old-fashioned view. The idea that Charles Edward Stuart and the Jacobite leadership are deceiving honest, decent Scots like Jamie Fraser or whoever to follow them is a very old-fashioned view." Why was Season 6 of Outlander so short? Outlander Season 6 wrapped in June, but some fans of the Starz series are curious to know why the current outing was so short. Express.co.uk has the lowdown. "It's kind of the view which was popular 60 or 70 years ago but isn't really held to now, so I think that's the issue." Professor Pittock also said of the portrayal, "Outlander's actual interest in the Jacobite cause as a cause isn't a positive one. Jacobitism isn't depicted positively, and I think there are a lot of things there that Jacobite historians would take issue with while recognizing it's been good for the profile of Jacobitism generally." Professor Pittock said the modern take on Jacobitism and Culloden was more positive and the cause's leadership was ultimately derived from British propaganda during the era. He said there was a lot of enthusiasm and volunteers to the rebellion, and people came from the East Coast boroughs and small towns of Scotland rather than the Highlands as some may think given the depiction in Outlander. Professor Pittock explained, "So, really we're looking at a political movement which didn't succeed, and therefore people can say political movements that didn't succeed are doomed to fail, but actually had some chance of succeeding. It was certainly the view of those that hated it and feared it at the time as having a real chance of succeeding." He said the rebellion was viewed at the time in some quarters as a major political threat to the development of the British Empire and the United Kingdom because the victory of the Stuarts would have established 3 separate states ruled by a single king. On whether Jacobitism led to the destruction of Highland culture, Professor Pittock said this was a small and partial view, adding this way of life was already in a process of dissolution. In fact, the Jacobite cause was much bigger than just protecting Highland culture, and the horizons of the movement were far wider than this narrow scope. Professor Pittock said Outlander also had parallels to the novels of American author William Faulkner with the notion of the Jacobite South with rebels heading for a fresh start in the New World after Culloden. Addressing the show and the novel's impact generally, he said, "There is no doubt there's more interest in the Jacobites thanks to Outlander from the screenings over the last decade, no question about that. I think it's very clear to be seen in tourism to Scotland, obviously interrupted by the pandemic in certain cases." He added, "So, yes, it's had an impact in terms of tourism, in terms of the Jacobite period, and both those things are positive." He also warned historians to take Outlander with a pinch of salt given it features time travel and was a work of fiction rather than trying to discern if it was historically accurate. Moreover, He said Scottish historians spent more time poring over the inaccuracies of the Hollywood movie Braveheart than their American counterparts would do over films about U.S. history. Outlander Season 7 will air later this year and Seasons 1 to 6 are streaming on Lionsgate Plus now.
Now take